Well, hello there. How are you doing? So, what are we going to talk about today then? Well, there's always something. I'm just silencing my phone. I always forget is what it is, right? There's always something. I've been asked a lot of questions recently about habits and how we can, usually they come from a point of view of, I've got a bad habit or some bad habits. What can I do about them? How can I get rid of them? Well, habits aren't all bad, right? We all have some really good habits as well. So if you want to talk about good habits or bad habits, you can talk to me about either. And there are things that I can enable you to do to work at those habits, improve upon those habits. And we're going to do some of that in this short video today. But before we get started, I just want to mention a book. I'm often asked for book recommendations. So here's a book recommendation. It's called Willpower Doesn't Work, written by organizational psychologist Ben Hardy, also known as. And this is a great book. It's actually very easy to go through. It's easy to read. You don't need to be a psychologist to read this stuff. And it's interesting. It's absolutely interesting. It's very illuminating. I bought it when it came out back in, I don't know, 2015, 16, I don't know, whatever. I bought it back then and I've read it several times, or at least sections of it several times since because they're useful. So, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about habits. Why are we going to talk about habits? Because they matter, because people ask me questions. And we're going to talk in particularly, that was good English, was it not? No, it was rubbish. We're going to talk particularly about transforming habits. And we're going to talk about transforming habits from a neuroscience approach. So that's interesting in itself. I'm fascinated by neuroscience. These neuroscientists keep discovering amazing things, and it's actually quite special. Some of the things they come up with really enable us to think and change. People like me, they enable us to change our practices because they're producing evidence all the time about different facets, I guess, of neuroscience and the way the human brain functions. Fascinating. Anyway, let's get started. Enough waffle from me. So thanks for being here today. I'm always really grateful for the questions that I get and for the fact that people come back to me with things. It's interesting. I always say, send a comment if you like, but if you prefer, send a direct message. Interestingly, many people prefer to send a direct message. Well, that's okay. Go ahead and do that. Or you can send an email. Interesting, in my network, not that many people use email to contact me. Interesting. I don't mind. So let's share some of these insights, particularly relating to how we can transform our habits effectively. So we need to do that by exploring some traditional ideas, traditional notions of willpower, like Benjamin Hardy's book. Traditional notions of willpower might actually not be the key to lasting change. Wow, scary, right? Big statement. So we're going to look into a neuroscience-backed approach because it can help us to build the habits we desire, I suppose. What is it that you desire? Did you watch Lucifer? So let's talk about the myth of willpower for a minute. And one of Ben Hardy's thought-provoking ideas, title of the book, Willpower Doesn't Work. And at first glance, this may well seem to be counterintuitive. And I suppose many of us, if not all of us, in fact, have been told that sheer willpower is the key to overcoming challenges and changing our behaviors. Is it? I don't think it is. Ben Hardy doesn't think it is. But recent psychological research does suggest that relying solely on willpower is often ineffective for creating any lasting habit changes. So the thing is, though, if willpower isn't the magic bullet, what can we do and how can we change our habits? So let's think about some effective strategies that are beyond this idea of willpower. And let's think about our environment design in particular. How can that matter? How can that make any difference? Why does that, why might that work? So our brains are highly responsive to environmental cues. And a part of the brain called the basal ganglia is a critical region for habit formation. And it reacts to these cues and triggers. And as a result of that, we develop habitual behaviors. So let's think about modifying your surroundings. Well, I can't do that for you. You have to do that. Modify your environment, your surroundings. Because by doing that, it enables us to make desired behaviors easier to follow and to be successful with. And it makes undesirable behaviors harder to manage, harder to pop up, harder to become big habits that are difficult to remove. So, for example, if your aim is to eat healthier, then what do you need to do in your environment? You need to keep nutritious snacks visible and hide away the bad stuff. And then let's think about something here called habit stacking. Well, what on earth is that and why does it work? Well, what we're doing is we've got a habit, an existing habit. Let's say it's the one about keeping unhealthy snacks out of the way and healthy ones on view. So by attaching a new habit to that existing habit, what we're doing is, in effect, is creating a seamless neural link between actions. And up here in our brain, what that does is it leverages the prefrontal cortex and the basal ganglia to strengthen the connections. Getting a bit scientific here, aren't we? But it's fairly simple. Think about it. Rewind if you need to. So here's something for you to do. Identify a daily habit that you already perform. So it could be, for example, brushing your teeth. And add a new behavior to it. So an example of that might be, after I brush my teeth, I'll do 5 minutes of stretching. You see where we're going? We're stacking the habits. Toothbrushing, 5 minutes stretching, stacked on top of the toothbrushing. That's all it is. It's simple. And we can go deeper than that as well. We can stack more. But let's not go there for now. If you want to go deeper, talk to me. I can help you work out ways and means. Also, if you stick with me to the end of this video, I'm going to share a little formula that you could write down, or if I'm being nice, you could send me a message and ask for a copy and I'll send it to you. And I am nice, so you'll get that copy. So let's think about something else, something called implementation intentions. Well, what are they and why do they work? Setting specific plans engages the prefrontal cortex. And it helps to create detailed neural representations of your intent or mine intended behaviors. And that reduces something called decision fatigue and any reliance we may have on willpower. Here's a little thought, though. You've heard me talk about mountain biking. If you've been around a while, I talk about it a lot. I'm going mountain bike riding when I'm finished with work today. If I attack a difficult hill, so there is a position in mountain biking called the attack position. So I get into the attack position and go for this difficult hill. There's rocks all over the place. It might be muddy if it's been raining. It's not easy. So if I really hit it hard and try to use willpower to get up there, chances are at some point a wheel's going to spin, I'm going to lose some balance, something's not going to work out, and I'm going to end up off the bike. and maybe have to walk the rest of the way up. However, if I approach that hill with a different mindset, a mindset of, I need to think about this, I need to take this a little bit slowly, I need to think about which gear I'm in, I need to look at the ground that's in front of me, the terrain in front of me. So where are the difficult bits? Are there any bits that I can't get over? So I need to keep an eye on all of these things. I don't need to rely on willpower because I'm busy thinking about other things. Because in that situation, willpower really does not usually work. Okay, I might need a little bit of willpower to motivate me, to push me harder sometimes, but it's not going to do the whole thing. It's not going to do the whole job. So let's think about a simple formula. I will action, whatever it might be, at 2 o'clock in the office. I'll just make that make sense. So I will meditate for 10 minutes at 7 o'clock in the morning in the lounge. Or I'll meditate at 7 o'clock in the morning in the bedroom. We need consistency. And we're giving our brains a big chance of succeeding at that thing. Meditate, 7 o'clock in the bedroom. So we need consistency over intensity. And why does that work? Consistent repetition strengthens our synaptic connections through something called synaptic plasticity. And that makes habits more robust and automatic. So let's think about a small, manageable version of your habit. Instead of committing, for example, to a 30-minute workout, begin with 5 minutes every day. Gradually increase the duration. 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever fits, whatever works for you. But do it gradually. Don't do it one day, then the next day, then the next day. If that doesn't work for you, if it takes you a whole week of 5 minutes before you move up to 7 minutes or whatever, let it take a whole week. Do what works for you. This matters. So what about mindset and identity shift? Embracing a new identity engages something called the default mode network. I was talking about this recently, I think. Yeah, I was. And what it does, it helps you to align your actions with your self-image. And that can make behavior change. If you see behavior change as being necessary, it can make it more natural. So let's talk about reframing your goals by focusing on who you want to become. So instead of saying, I want to get fit, say, I am somebody who prioritizes health. There's a big difference, isn't there? Just a few words, huge difference. So try that. Think about it. What is it that you want to achieve? And who are you? I'm someone who prioritizes health. And there's social support and accountability. Why would that work? Well, social interactions help us to activate the dopaminergic system. And that's involved in reward processing and motivation. So positive reinforcement from other people boosts dopamine levels, and that reinforces desired behaviors. So here's an action step. Share your habit goals with a friend or an accountability partner, whoever you feel most comfortable with. Or you could even join a group with similar objectives. I have some psychology groups. Ask me. There may be a group that fits your needs. And they're not expensive. They're quite cheap comparatively to one-on-one sessions. So regular check-ins can significantly enhance your commitment. So let's think about the neuroscience of habit formation. To truly understand why these strategies work, we need to look into the neuroscience behind the habit formation. There's something called the habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. That triggers the behavior processed by the amygdala, which is another part of the brain. I don't have time to go. I'm not showing images and things like that. So if you want to look at where the amygdala is in the brain and exactly what it does, have a look around. You'll find loads of stuff on Google. So the routine, the behavior itself, which is managed by the basal ganglia, and the reward reinforces the behavior through the release of dopamine. Cool. So if we understand this loop, it helps us to design strategies that effectively modify or replace each component that enables us then to establish new habits. So dopamine and reward prediction. That should have error with it. Dopamine and reward prediction error. Sounds a bit complicated. It's not. Dopamine, right, is a neurotransmitter. And it's a neurotransmitter that's really important. It's crucial for reward processing and motivation. Chances are, if your motivation is really low in your boots, that your levels of dopamine are not very high at that particular time. And it reinforces behaviors that lead to positive outcomes. So when you get a dopamine boost, it reinforces these behaviors that lead to positive outcomes. Great. But reward prediction error occurs when there is a difference between expected and actual rewards. And that can strengthen or weaken our neural connections. And that, of course, is based on the outcome. We can leverage dopamine through positive reinforcement. It enhances the formation of new habits by making them more rewarding. Think about that. And let's think about neuroplasticity while we're at it. I know I spoke about this last week briefly. It comes up quite a lot in my world. It is not as wacky out there as it may sound. Neuroplasticity, it's quite an interesting field of study. Have a look at it. Our brains have this amazing, remarkable ability to reorganize themselves. And they do it by forming new neural connections throughout our lives. So if you have a normal, healthy brain, this is going to keep happening. Engaging in new behaviors can reshape the brain structure, and that can make new habits more ingrained over a period of time, which is quite exciting. What that's telling us is, if you want to develop a new habit, a positive habit over, for example, a negative habit, it's entirely possible to rewrite those neurons. It's not a done deal because you have a habit, you can't get rid of it. So let's think about this, a transition from the prefrontal, I mentioned this earlier, the prefrontal cortex to the basal ganglia. Initially, the prefrontal cortex is involved in planning and decision making, and especially when we're establishing new habits. Over time, the basal ganglia takes over, and that allows behaviors to become automatic without active decision making. Think about a lot of your habits. Do they involve active decision making? Many of them don't, because they're automatic. So this transition kind of underscores the importance of establishing strong initial neural connections, especially if we need long-term habit maintenance. So let's think I told you there was a plan. Here's the plan. It's a simple plan, it's effective, and it can help us change our habits. So we need to pull all the things I've just been talking about together in a kind of straightforward way that's easy to follow and enables us to change our habits effectively. So we need to clarify the desired habits. A clear goal activates the prefrontal cortex for planning. A clear goal. No hairy-fairy stuff here, folks. So write down the specific habits that you want to develop or change. Write it down. So, for example, I want to ride my mountain bike for 20 minutes longer every day. And then we need to think about designing the environment for the success of this. My environment for the success of this would be I need to find an extra 20 minutes in my day or take 20 minutes off something else. So I need to look at that environment, that whole picture. Environmental cues activate the basal ganglia. So set up your surroundings, your physical environment, to make the new habit easier. So, for example, place your workout clothes, in my case, my mountain bike kit, not there, but it should be. Place your workout clothes, your mountain bike kit, whatever it is, where you'll see them first thing in the morning. And then use habit stacking, because we know that habit stacking does work. It strengthens neural pathways by linking new behavior to an established routine. So we want to attach this new habit to an existing one. So here's a simple example. I brush my teeth. After that, I'll do 5 minutes of stretching. I mentioned this idea before. So we need to create a plan with implementation intentions, because it engages the prefrontal cortex and it really does reduce decision fatigue. Do you know how often we get fatigue because of the constant decision making we're involved with in the day? Amazing. Maybe for another day. And we need to specify when and where we'll perform the habit. So, for example, I'll meditate for 10 minutes at 7 o'clock in the lounge. Simple. And we need to start small for consistency, because consistency helps us to build synaptic plasticity through consistent repetition. Every day, 7 o'clock. So we need to start with a small and manageable version of the habit. So just 5 minutes of exercise is enough to get going, and gradually we need to increase the time. And we need to focus on identity, not just goals. We need to engage the DMN, the default mode network, by aligning our actions with a new self-image. Reframe your mindset. Say something like, I am someone who prioritizes health. I want to get fit doesn't really cut it. So be somebody who prioritizes health, if health is the habit you're working on, of course. And then we need to use or leverage some form of accountability and social support. We need to get help. And it works because it activates this dopaminergic system. It enhances our motivation through social reinforcement. That's cool. Really good. So share your habit plan with a friend or join a group with similar goals. Regular check-ins help to keep us motivated. And we need to celebrate our wins too and track progress. There is a dopamine release from celebrating things, celebrating our wins, and it reinforces the habit loop. So use a journal or an app, track your progress, and reward yourself for milestones. Doesn't matter how small they are, reward yourself for them. I reward myself when I'm out on my mountain bike and there's a little short, sharp hill that is really difficult to get up. Don't do it the first time. Go back, do it again another day. I get up there eventually. And I reward myself. I say, yes, you did that. Well done. Good job. And I also reflect on it. What was it that was making it difficult? Was it because there's a big rock that I couldn't get over? What was it? So just reflect a little bit. I don't judge it or anything like that. Just reflect. So here's a summary of this habit change plan. Remember, if you want a written version, do let me know and I'll send you one. Clarify the habit. Define it really clearly. Design your environment. Remove barriers and remove setup cues. Stack the habit. Attach the new habit to an existing habit. And then set a plan. Specify when and where you'll do it. 7 o'clock in the lounge. 5 o'clock after work, outside my house, on the bike. Start small. Focus on consistency, not intensity. Consistency is more important. And think about the idea of an identity shift. Reinforce the new identity and find a partner to hold you accountable or a group. Celebrate your wins. Track and reward progress. So by understanding the neuroscience behind habit formation and implementing these practical strategies, you can create an environment and mindset that supports long-term habit change. It's a holistic approach and it moves beyond the limitations of willpower, because like Ben Hardy said, what did he say? Willpower does not work. We're aligning our efforts with our brain's natural processes because that helps us to make meaningful and lasting transformations. Changing habits really isn't about fighting against your willpower. It's actually about working with your brain to build the life you desire. Start small, stay consistent, and embrace the journey of becoming the person you aspire to be. Embrace the journey. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, if you've got comments, you want to send messages, go ahead, do that as soon as you possibly can, and I will get back to you. If you're interested in the plan, let me know, send a message, and I'll send you a copy of the plan. Have a great day. Take care. I'll see you soon.